The Grand Hall of Drelvan was unlike anything Commander Thalon had ever seen. The ceiling sparkled like stars, made of living crystal that shifted with the light. Walls curved gently, glowing with soft patterns that moved like water. Every step on the silver floor gave a gentle hum, like music only the floor understood. This was not a place made by humans. Thalon stood near the back of the hall. Around him, diplomats from across the galaxy had taken their places, tall, feathered beings from the Turn Dominion, slender, bright-skinned Ilari from the Confederation. Even the silent Arnin, who spoke only through pulses of energy, were here. Everyone had come for one reason: peace. The war between the Turn and the Ilari had lasted for 79 years. Planets had burned. Cities had vanished. Billions had died. And now, finally, both sides were tired. They had agreed to talk, not because they trusted each other, but because they were afraid of what might happen next. Humanity had not fought in this war. Earth was still new to the stars. Only 50 years had passed since humans first stepped beyond their own solar system. But the Galactic Council had invited Earth to send one observer. Not a fighter, not a leader. Just a watcher. That watcher was Thalon. He wasn't young, but he wasn't old either. His uniform was clean but simple. No gold, no cape, no glowing symbols. Just the quiet gray of the Earth diplomatic corps. He had sharp eyes, calm hands, and a mind that listened more than it spoke. He was perfect for this job. As the hall filled with light and sound, voices in dozens of languages floated through the air. Thalon listened, making notes in his head. Most of the speeches were polite. Some were proud. A few were full of old anger, carefully hidden under soft words. But one thing was clear: no one trusted anyone. Then Thalon noticed something strange. Near the center of the hall, where the main Ilari delegation stood in a beam of golden light, there was a gap. Not an empty space, no. Someone was there. A figure, small and still, standing behind a thin energy screen. The screen shimmered like air over hot metal. It showed nothing clearly. Just a shadow. Most of the delegates stood in light. But this, one stayed in shadow. Thalon leaned slightly to the side, trying to see more. The figure didn't move. But something about her, yes, he was sure it was her, felt different. She didn't stand like a guard. She wasn't dressed like a warrior, and she didn't glow like the other Ilari. They were radiant, shining with soft blue light from their skin. This one did not shine. She watched for a moment, her head turned slightly toward Thalon. A pause, then she looked away. Thalon felt something stir in his chest. It wasn't love. It wasn't curiosity. It was something deeper. Something that told him she is important. He had no proof, no data. Just instinct. But humans had survived a lot by trusting instinct. An hour passed. More speeches. More promises. The Turn leader, a tall being with feathers of green and silver, said, "The future must be built in truth." The Ilari ambassador, glowing like a star, replied, "Truth begins when fear ends." Words in a room full of light. But Thalon wasn't listening anymore. His eyes stayed on the shadow. She did not speak. She did not move, yet every word seemed to touch her. When someone lied, her head tilted. When someone told the truth, her hands clenched just a little. No one else saw it. But Thalon did. She was reading them. All of them. He wondered if she was allowed to speak. When the session ended for the day, lights dimmed and the delegates left. Some floated, some walked, some dissolved into light. Thalon waited until almost everyone was gone. Then the screen dropped. The golden beam faded. The figure stepped forward. Thalon saw her face for the first time. She was not fully Ilari. Her skin was pale, almost human, but with a soft glow underneath. Her hair was silver blue, tied back simply. Her eyes, strange eyes, held the depth of someone who had watched too much and spoken too little. She met his gaze for 1 second, then turned and walked into the side corridor. Thalen didn't follow. He just stood there, heart beating faster than it should. His hand moved to his small communicator. He tapped a note. Subject: unknown female aide, Ilari section details. Partial Ilari. Possible hybrid behavior. Quiet, observing. Not in official list. Might be key witness or hidden advisor. Personal note: in a room full of light, I only looked at her shadow. That night, as Thalen sat in his quarters, his tablet buzzed. A message had arrived. No sender. No title. Just 3 words. You saw me. Commander Thalen stared at the message on his tablet. You saw me. He read it again, just to be sure. There was no name. No sign of who had sent it. But he knew it was her, the girl in the shadow, the one who never spoke. The one who didn't shine like the others. Thalen sat quietly for a moment, thinking. Then he typed back only 2 words. Who are you? No reply came that night. The next morning, the summit continued. More speeches, more smiling faces that didn't match their words. The hall was full of color and light again, but Thalen wasn't paying attention to the lights. He was watching the shadows. She was there again behind the Ilari screen. Same place, same stillness. The others stood tall and proud, glowing softly in their ceremonial robes. But not her. She stood like she was made of glass, hard to see, easy to break. This time, Thalen tried something different. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small reflective chip, no bigger than a coin. A human-made trick. It caught light and bounced it just enough to see around curves and corners. He placed it carefully on his desk, angled toward her screen. The screen blurred her shape, but through the reflection, he could almost see her face. Almost. She was watching. Again, not just the room but the people. The way they shifted their feet. The way they changed tone when they lied. The way they smiled too wide when they wanted to hide anger. Thalen realized something important. She understood all of them. He thought about how she moved, how she noticed things. She wasn't just an aide or a servant. She was trained. Maybe even created for this. But why keep her hidden? When the morning session ended, the delegates left once more. As before, her screen faded and she stepped back into the corridor. This time, a folded note waited on Thalen's desk. He picked it up quickly, hiding it in his coat before anyone noticed. Back in his room, he opened the note. It was written in clear basic standard, the shared galactic trade language. My name is Mira. I am not on the official list. I was not supposed to be seen. I read people. That is what I was made for. But I have never been read. Until you. Thalen sat down slowly. So he was right. She was trained. Maybe not even by choice. She called it made. That word stayed in his mind, not raised or taught. Made. He wrote back using an old method humans used before space travel. He wrote on paper. Carefully, quietly. You are not just a tool. Not to me. Why are you hidden? He left the reply. Where she had left her note. The next day, the message was gone, and a new one appeared in its place. The Ilari do not want me to speak, because I am part of something they don't talk about. Half of me is Ilari. The other half is something they fear. I don't know what it is, but I think it is human. Thalen felt his breath catch. A hybrid. This explained the way she moved. The way she didn't shine like the Ilari. The way her eyes looked more like Earth's. He understood now. The Ilari had always believed in perfection. They avoided genetic mixing. They spoke of balance and beauty. A hybrid child, half Ilari, half something else, was not something they would ever accept, even if that child had rare gifts, especially if she had rare gifts. Thalen took a quiet walk through the lower levels of the summit building. He told no one. He made sure no cameras saw him. Humans were still underestimated in this galaxy. People assumed they were clumsy or too emotional. Sometimes that helped. He entered an empty corridor beneath the council chambers. The lights were dim. The walls were silent. She was there, waiting. Myra. No screen. No wall of light. Just her. Up close, Thalon saw her more clearly. Her skin was smooth and pale, with a soft blue glow under the surface. Her hair was tied back with a simple silver band. Her eyes light gray with a trace of violet looked directly into his. She did not speak at first, neither did he. Then she said, in a soft voice, "You shouldn't be here." Her voice was gentle, careful, like someone who had learned to whisper even when no one told her to be quiet. "I came because you matter," Thalon said. She blinked, surprised. "I'm not part of the official summit." "Maybe that's the problem," he replied. "You see the truth better than anyone in that room, and they keep you hidden." Mira looked down. "If they knew I was talking to you, I would be removed." Then, "Why did you send me a message?" Thalon asked. She paused, then whispered, "Because you looked at me." He nodded slowly. "In a room full of light, I only looked at your shadow." That made her smile. Just a little. A real smile, not one made for the cameras. "I don't want war," she said. "But someone does, I think. I think parts of this peace summit are not real. The words are too perfect. The timing too exact." Thalon's eyes narrowed. "You think someone is faking peace?" "I think someone is using it to hide something," she said. "And I think I'm part of it." He stepped closer. "Then help me find the truth." Her hands shook a little. "I don't know who I am. I only know how to read others." "Then let me read you," he said. "Together, maybe. We can read what they're hiding." For a moment, Mira stood very still. Then she nodded. "I will show you what I see." As Thalon walked back to his room that night, he didn't feel tired. He felt awake. Something was coming. Something deep and dangerous. And the key to it all had been standing in shadow, but not anymore. Mira and Thalon met again the next night. The lower halls of the summit building were quiet, almost forgotten. Long ago, they were used for storage and support rooms. Now they were empty. No guards, no lights, no questions. Mira moved like she had always belonged in the dark. Thalon followed her down a narrow path, past glowing pipes and silent machines. She didn't speak until they reached a door. It was small and made of old silver metal, unlike the bright crystal designs above. "This place is not on the maps," she whispered. "Even the Ilari forgot it." She touched the door. It slid open. Inside was a room filled with old technology. Strange machines hummed gently. A control panel blinked with blue lights. On the wall, a large screen showed maps, energy signals, movement patterns, and something else. Names of delegates, matched with changing numbers. "What is this?" Thalon asked. Mira stepped toward the screen. "This is how they watch them." She pointed to the numbers. "Emotion readings, speech patterns, brain signals. These are not just for safety. They use this data to change the energy of the room." Thalon's face turned serious. "You mean they're controlling them?" "Not fully," Myra said, "but they guide feelings. They make people feel calm or afraid, or even unsure, depending on who speaks." Thalon stared at the machines. "They've been adjusting the peace talks from the start," Myra nodded. "Most don't notice, but I do." She pressed a button. A sound filled the room, soft at first, then sharper. It was the speech from earlier that day. One of the turn leaders had spoken proudly. But under the voice, there was another layer. A low vibration, hard to hear, easy to feel. This sound was played only when the turn spoke. Myra explained, "It makes Ilari feel tense, less trusting." Thalon shook his head. "That's not peace. That's control. And I think someone is using this to push the two sides apart again," she said, "but hiding it under the mask of unity." Thalon paced the room. "We need to show this to the council." Mira looked down. They won't listen to me. I'm not even supposed to exist. They'll listen to me, Fallon said. I'm neutral. I can ask questions. She touched his arm. You will be in danger. He smiled gently. You think humans made it this far by staying safe? The next morning, Fallon stood before the council chamber with a calm face. He sent a small request to speak unusual for an observer, but not illegal. The Ilari ambassador raised an eyebrow. Earth wishes to add to the summit? Fallon stepped forward. Just a short question. He walked to the center of the hall. All eyes were on him. The room glowed warmly. The energy fields pulsed gently in the background. I've noticed something unusual, he began. A pattern in the way the chamber responds. A quiet sound barely felt changes when different people speak. Some delegates exchanged looks. A few shifted uncomfortably. Fallon continued, I ask with respect, if the council would allow a scan of the chamber's systems. The Ilari ambassador smiled, but it was thin. The room is built with ancient harmony. No part of it is designed to harm, Fallon nodded. Then there's nothing to fear from a scan. There was silence. Then the turn leader stood. Let the human check. If his kind can detect a problem, perhaps we should all be more careful. The Ilari ambassador hesitated, then gave a soft nod. The scan began. Later that evening, Fallon returned to the lower chamber. Myra was waiting. They agreed? She asked. Thal and nodded. Yes, the turn leader supported it. It caught the Ilari off guard. Mira looked unsure. What happens if they discover who helped you? Fallon answered simply, then I protect you. She stared at him. Why? Fallon didn't smile. He just said, because someone should have a long time ago. She looked away for a moment, then back at him. I've never had anyone say that to me. You do now, he replied. The next day, chaos broke out. The scan showed hidden programs in the chamber walls, programs that adjusted sound and light based on the speaker. They could make some voices seem clearer, some less trustworthy. It was a tool for manipulation. The council demanded answers. The Ilari leadership denied knowledge. But tension filled the air. Some said the turn planted the system. Others blamed the Ilari. A few whispered of a third group, hiding behind both. But no one had proof, not yet. Fallon was called in for questioning. He answered calmly. He said nothing of Mira. He only told the truth he could prove. After hours of talking, he was ordered to remain in his room while the investigation continued. As he sat in silence, a small screen on his table flickered. Mira's voice came through, quiet and urgent. They're looking for me, she said. They know someone helped you. Fallon stood up. Where are you? I'm safe. For now. But I need to leave the summit building. I'll come with you, Fallon said. No, Myra replied. They won't stop you, not yet. But I am not safe. Fallon gripped the table. You can't run forever. I'm not running, she said. I'm going to find out who built the system. There was a pause. Then she added, and I think I know where to start. The screen went dark. Fallon stood alone in his room. Everything was changing now. The room full of light had been hiding. More than shadows. It had been hiding control, secrets, lies, but now someone had dared to look into the dark, and the dark had looked back. For 2 days, Mira didn't send a message. Fallon waited in his room, watched by guards and questioned by diplomats. He answered carefully. He gave no names, no details. But he made it clear, someone had been using the Peace Summit for a different plan. They couldn't arrest him, not yet. He hadn't broken any laws. He had only asked the right questions, but Fallon knew the council was nervous, and someone behind the scenes was angry. On the third night, when the lights dimmed across the summit halls, a soft beep came from Fallon's tablet. A new message. Number. Name, no title. Come to sub-level 4. Quietly. Alone, Fallon left without a sound. He took the back halls, the old service shafts. Humans were good at moving in silence when needed. In war, they had learned how to disappear in noise and shadows. Sub-level 4 was colder than the rest of the building. Its walls were plain metal, not crystal. Its lights were dim, flickering like they hadn't been checked in years. Fallon reached a small door at the far end. He knocked twice, paused, then knocked once more. The door opened. Mira stood inside. Her silver blue hair was tied back, and her clothes were simple gray, like the walls. She didn't smile, but her eyes showed relief. "You came," she said softly. "Of course," Fallon replied. She led him inside. The room was small, filled with old equipment. A large screen stood against the wall, its display blinking with strange code. Maps, symbols, and unfamiliar signals flashed across it. "What is this?" Fallon asked. "This is where it began," Mira said. She walked to the screen and touched it. A new map appeared, this one showing a planet. A red line blinked across its surface. "This is Illyris 3, she said. "A research colony, secret, not on any public records." "And what did they research?" Fallon asked. She looked at him. "People like me." Fallon stepped closer. The screen showed files, images of hybrid children, notes on behavior, charts of brain activity. "It wasn't just me," Mira said. "There were others. Some part human, some part Turn. The Ilari were trying to create the perfect diplomat. Someone who could read every species. Someone who could speak in silence." Fallon clenched his fists, but they kept it hidden. "Because it went wrong," she said. "Some children became too sensitive. Some couldn't control their emotions. And one broke the system." Fallon's voice lowered. "What happened?" Mira looked down. The peace project was shut down. The children were scattered. A few were erased. And the ones who survived were hidden. I was one of them. Fallon breathed slowly. "So this summit, the energy fields, the emotional controls, they were all based on what the research found," Mira said. "But someone took it further. They made a system to win peace, not build it." Fallon stared at the screen. "Someone used your pain to control the galaxy." Mira nodded. Double quotes, "And now they want to do more." Fallon sat down on a metal chair beside her. "Why tell me this now?" "Because I found something," Mira said. "A signal. It's coming from inside the summit building." She tapped the screen again. A glowing point appeared on the map of the summit. "Here," she said, "below the council chamber. There's a hidden room, full of old Ilari tech. I think that's where the real plan is running." "What kind of plan?" Fallon asked. Mira's voice dropped. "A program that sends small emotional waves to the entire council. It pushes fear, then calm, then confusion, over and over." Fallon's eyes narrowed. "It keeps them unsure." "Yes," Mira said. "So when someone stands with confidence like the wrong leader, it feels right, even if it's not. And the peace process becomes a show," Fallon said bitterly. Mira nodded. "It's not war they fear, it's free thought." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Fallon stood. "We need to shut it down." Mira looked unsure. "If we break it, the council might panic. Then we show them the truth before that happens," Fallon said. "Let them see what's behind the curtain." Mira stepped back. "There's a way, but it's risky." "I don't care," Fallon said. "Just tell me what to do." That night, while the council slept, Mira and Fallon moved. They wore plain worker uniforms and passed through maintenance tunnels. They avoided cameras, guards, and light. Finally, they reached the hidden room deep beneath the floor of the council chamber. The door was locked, sealed with old Ilari code. Mira pressed her hand to a small panel. Her skin glowed slightly. The machine blinked. Then the door opened. Inside was a large machine, round, pulsing, and silent. Cables stretched from it into the walls, like roots growing in every direction. Mira walked to the main control pad. If I upload the truth, my memories, the research data, the control plans, it will spread across every display in the summit. Everyone will see. Fallon stepped beside her. Do it. She hesitated. If I do this, they will know who I am. You are Mira, Fallon said firmly. You are the one who saw through it all. She looked at him, really looked. Then she pressed the final key. The machine lit up. Images began to flash across screens on every floor, every hall, every room. Memories, files, maps, proof. The lie was exposed. But then, alarms blared. Security. Forces rushed through the halls. Mira turned to Fallon. They're coming. Let them, he said. No, she replied. You must go. They'll listen to you. I'm not leaving you. Mira stepped closer. You already did enough. Now it's my turn. Before Fallon could speak, she placed something in his hand, a small data chip. This holds everything, she said. Take it to the Earth Embassy. They'll protect it. Fallon held the chip tightly. Myra, she touched his hand softly. Go. The door opened again. Fallon ran. Behind him. The lights dimmed once more. As he reached the upper floor, he looked back one last time. In a room full of lies, one shadow had stood for truth, and she had chosen to be seen. The Peace Summit was no longer peaceful. Screens across the Drelvan station continued to flash with images, files, and voices. The truth Mira had uploaded could not be hidden now. Ambassadors who had trusted each other were suddenly filled with doubt. Some were angry. Some were afraid. Some simply sat in silence, staring at the faces of hybrid children. And the long list of lies. Commander Fallon stood near the center of it all. He had escaped the lower levels just minutes before the security forces stormed in. Now the council chamber was in lockdown. Guards stood at every door. Drones circled. Overhead, no one could leave. No one could speak without being recorded. And Mira was gone. Fallon didn't know if she had escaped or been taken. The Earth delegation received the data chip. They confirmed its contents and sent the truth back to Earth Command. Within hours, human ships across the nearby systems began to broadcast the signal openly. This is not a war message, the transmission said, but a message of warning. Peace built on control is not peace at all. The truth must be free. People across different star systems started asking questions. On neutral planets, protests began. On Turn colonies, soldiers refused orders. On Lari stations, young voices demanded to know why their leaders hid the hybrid program. The galaxy was waking up. But inside the summit building, Fallon was still trapped. He paced his room like a caged animal. Not because he was afraid for himself, but because he couldn't stop thinking about her. Myra. Was she alive? Was she still hiding? Or had they silenced her? A small message beeped on his tablet. This time, it came from someone unexpected. It was a Turn envoy named Davin. Fallon had met him briefly on the first day. Tall, with green feathers and calm eyes. The message was short. Meet me on Observation Deck 6. You are not the only one who wants answers. Fallon didn't wait. Deck 6 was quieter than the others. It overlooked the shining crystal forests that decorated the outer edges of Drelvan Station. The stars beyond looked peaceful. But inside, everything was shifting. Davin stood by the window. Wings folded behind him. You're bold, he said without turning. Exposing the summit like that. Fallon stepped beside him. Someone had to. I knew something was wrong, Davin admitted. The words didn't match the feelings. But I never imagined it went this deep. Fallon looked at him carefully. So why call me? Davin turned. Because there's a group forming, not a military one, a voice. Ambassadors from small planets, neutral systems, even a few scientists. They call it the Shadow Rebellion. Fallon raised an eyebrow. Named after Mira? Davin nodded. She showed us that truth lives in the places no one wants to look. Thalen's voice became sharp. Do you know where she is? No, Davin said softly, but we're looking. That night, another message came. This time, it had no words. Just a voice on it was Myra. Her voice was faint, like it had traveled. Across too many systems. I'm alive, I escaped. I'm somewhere safe. I've seen the effect of the truth. And now others are waking up. Thalen closed his eyes, relief washing over him. But they are hunting me. Not just the Ilari. Someone else. Someone in the shadows behind the Peace Summit. A group that doesn't belong to any known species. I think they created the energy system. I think they're still hiding. Thalen leaned forward, listening to every word. I'm going to find them. If we don't stop them, they'll build another system. Stronger. Faster. The summit was only a test. The message ended there. The next morning, the summit changed. Delegates began to speak freely. Fear had started to break. The Turn Dominion formally asked for a full investigation into the Ilari's role in hybrid research. The Ilari, under pressure, agreed. But they also said something new. A third force interfered with this summit. One unknown to us. We believe we are all being watched. Thalen stood quietly at the edge of the chamber, his hands behind his back. He listened, but his mind was with Myra. She had spoken of something worse than manipulation. A secret group. A hidden plan. He needed to act before it was too late. Later that day, Davin came to him again. There's a transmission center deep in the mountain below the station, the Turn said. Old, abandoned, they say, but someone's still using it. Thalen nodded. Then let's visit. They moved quietly, taking old cargo tunnels and emergency shafts. The deeper they went, the more they felt it, something cold in the air. Something hidden. At the bottom, they found the center, dark metal doors. No symbols, no lights. Davin touched the panel. Nothing happened. Thalen stepped forward, placed the chip Myra had given him against the lock. It clicked open. Inside, the walls were lined with machines, not Ilari, not Turn, not human. The tech was unfamiliar. The shapes were strange. The energy in the air was not warm, but sharp, like it cut through thought. This is not part of the summit, Davin whispered. No, Thalen agreed. This is something older. They walked slowly through the room. Then they saw it. In the center, a strange chair, with restraints. Beside it, a broken screen. On the floor, wires, some still glowing. And on one wall, images of hybrid children. Myra's face was among them. A soft recording played in the background. A voice. Neither of them recognized. They are learning too fast. Their minds are adapting. We must control them before they control us. Thalen's hands clenched. This wasn't just about peace. This was about control through generations. Someone had planned to shape the galaxy through minds, not weapons, and Myra. She had escaped it. Now she was fighting back. Thalen turned to Davin. We need to show the council this place. Yes, Davin said, but we must act fast. If this group sees us coming, they will vanish again. We'll find them. Thalen said, his voice firm. We'll shine light into the deepest shadow. That night, another message came. Just 3 words. They're watching everyone. And beneath it, a simple line. In a room full of light, the shadow still speaks. The hidden room beneath the summit was now empty. Thalen stood in the center of it, staring at the strange machines. The air was cold. The lights flickered. This place didn't feel like it belonged to the Ilari, or to any known species. It felt ancient, quiet, dangerous. Davin, the Turn envoy, walked beside him, scanning the walls. This isn't a lab, he said softly. It's a testing ground. For what? Thalen asked, though he already knew the answer. For minds, Davin replied. They studied people, children, hybrids, maybe even diplomats. They learned. how emotions work, and how to change them. Thalen stepped closer to the old chair in the center. Restraint still hung from its arms. The floor beneath it was worn, like someone had been there for a long time. "This place is the key," Thalen said. "We show this to the council, and they'll see the truth." Davin hesitated. "Are you sure? If the wrong people see this, they'll erase it, and us." "Then we don't show it to just the council," Thalen said. "We show it to everyone." Within 2 hours, Thalen contacted the Earth Embassy. Using their satellite connection, he uploaded the full video of the hidden lab, the chair, the machines, the files with hybrid names, and the voice recording that spoke of control. Then he sent it across the entire summit. Every screen lit up. Every delegate to Lari, Turn, Human, or other saw the truth. "They are learning too fast. We must control them before they control us." Panic followed. Some stood up and shouted. Others demanded answers. The Ilari leaders denied involvement. The Turn called for an emergency vote. In the middle of it all, Thalen stood calm and silent. He was not afraid anymore. Then something unexpected happened. The lights in the chamber turned red. Doors sealed shut. A warning echoed through the halls. "System override detected. Emergency lock-in activated." Thalen's eyes narrowed. "They're trying to shut us down." From the far side of the chamber, a door burst open, and Mira walked in. She wore a dark gray coat. Her silver-blue hair was untied. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with purpose. Every head turned toward her. Some Ilari gasped. One of them whispered, "It's her, the hybrid." Mira walked to the center of the chamber without fear. "I am Mira," she said, her voice strong. "I was made in secret, trained to read your thoughts, raised to never speak." Silence fell over the entire hall. "But I speak now," she continued, "because the galaxy needs to listen." She turned slowly, her eyes meeting every face. "This summit was never about peace," she said. "It was a stage. A test. Someone tried to turn emotion into a weapon. They built systems to guide your minds. They wanted you to believe only what they allowed." She pointed to the screens, now flashing images of the lab. "This was where I was kept, where others like me were broken or lost. But I survived, and I escaped." Gasps echoed again. Thalen stepped forward and stood beside her. "She's not lying," he said. "I've seen the systems. I've heard the messages. And I believe her." A Lari ambassador stood. "Even if this is true, who did this? Who built this system?" Mira's voice dropped low. "We don't know yet. But they are still out there, watching, waiting." A Turn leader stepped forward. "Then we must find them." Another ambassador spoke. "And what about her?" "She's not even registered." Mira turned to them. "I don't want power. I don't want revenge. I only want truth." Thalen added, "And she's earned the right to be heard." There was silence. Then Davin stepped into the chamber. "Let her speak." One by one, others began to nod. The energy in the room shifted, not by force, not by code, but by choice. For the first time, they were thinking for themselves. Later that evening, the chamber reopened, not for war, but for a new discussion. Mira stood in the center again. This time not as a shadow, not as a hidden tool, but as a voice. She explained what she knew about the research, the programs, the systems hidden under their feet. Thalen backed her with evidence. Davin added names and patterns that matched Mira's findings. The council agreed to a full investigation. But more than that, they listened. And for the first time, Mira's voice echoed across stars. In the days that followed, protests across space turned into movements. The phrase "truth over control" was spoken in dozens of languages. Smaller systems, once ignored, now asked for seats at the table. Hybrid voices began to speak. New faces entered politics, science, and peace groups. And Mira? She was offered a title, an official seat. But she refused. "I don't want power," she said. "I want to be free." Instead, she became an advisor to a new council, a neutral one, made of beings from many backgrounds. One that would watch the watchers. Thalen remained by her side. One quiet evening, they stood together in the old chamber. The lights had been turned off. The screens had been cleared. The chair removed. Only silence remained. Thalen looked at her. "You did it." Mira shook her head. "We did it," he smiled. "You were the light in the dark." She looked at him with soft eyes. "No, I was always the shadow." Then she took his hand. "You were the one who looked." They stood there, side by side, not in fear, not in silence. The peace summit on Drelvan had ended, but its effects were just beginning. Across the galaxy, people were waking up. The truth Mira and Thalen shared had spread faster than any war ever could. Leaders were no longer trusted just for their words. Now people asked questions. Now they looked closer, and most importantly, they listened. A new council was formed. It wasn't controlled by the Ilari. It wasn't led by the Turn, and it wasn't only humans who sat at the table. It was something new, built by many, not by one. They called it the Open Alliance. Their goal was simple: stop hidden control, protect emotional freedom, and make sure no voice was silenced again. At the center of it all stood Mira. Not as a symbol, not as a shadow, but as a guide. Mira did not wear fine robes. She did not speak with power in her voice. But when she stood to speak, the room always grew quiet. She spoke calmly, clearly, from the heart. Many tried to give her titles: Hero of Drelvan, Voice of the Forgotten, or the Shadow. Who shined? She accepted none of them. "I am just a girl who watched," she said, "and who wanted to be seen." People respected her more for that. She continued to live simply, often walking without guards, eating with students, and sitting quietly near windows, watching the stars. She had spent her whole life in silence. Now that she was free, she wanted only peace. Thalen stayed with her. He didn't return to Earth. Even when he was offered promotions, medals, or honors, he refused them all. "I did what any human would do," he said. "I saw someone left in the dark, and I stayed with her." He became Myra's assistant, friend, and protector. But more than that, he became someone she could trust. They spent many evenings together, talking or sitting quietly. No need for long speeches. Just peace. One day, Mira took Thalen to a quiet field on a green world newly welcomed into the Alliance. The sun was warm. The grass was soft under their feet. They sat side by side under a tree. No guards, no cameras. Just two people who had walked through shadows and brought truth into the light. "Do you ever miss Earth?" Mira asked softly. Thal and smiled. "Sometimes." "The sound of rain, the smell of old books, hot tea." Mira nodded. "I think I'd like tea." "I'll make it for you one day," Thalen said. They both smiled. A few weeks later, the investigation into the unknown group finished. The results were strange. No one knew who had built the emotional control systems. The technology had no clear origin. The voices recorded in the secret lab did not match any known species. It was as if something had been watching the galaxy from the shadows for a long time. But after Drelvan, they had vanished. The control programs were erased. The systems were shut down. And silence returned. Some feared they would come back. Others believed they were never truly gone. But one thing was clear: the galaxy was no longer sleeping. Mira gave her final speech 6 months after the summit. She stood in a bright room filled with light. People from every known world sat quietly, waiting. She did not speak long. "I once lived in a shadow," she said. "Not because I chose to, but because others decided I should not be seen." She paused. But someone looked at that shadow, and he didn't turn away. Thalen sat quietly in the crowd, eyes on her. She continued, "Control does not always come with weapons. Sometimes it comes with soft voices and warm smiles. It hides behind good words. But truth is stronger. She looked out across the room. We all have shadows, but they are not signs of weakness. They are signs that light exists. She stepped down, and the room stood in silent respect. That night, Mira and Thalen walked alone through a quiet garden. The stars above were clear. The path below them glowed with small lights. "You spoke beautifully," Thalen said. "I spoke." "Simply," Mira replied. "Just like you always told me to." He chuckled. "Sometimes simple words are the strongest." They reached a bench and sat down. Mira looked up at the sky. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked. Thalen didn't answer right away. He looked at the stars, then at her. "If they do," he said, "we'll be ready." She smiled. "Not just us." "No," he said, "all of them. Everyone you helped wake up." Mira leaned her head on his shoulder. "I'm not afraid anymore." He looked down at her. "I never was," he said gently. She looked up. "You were the first to see me." "In a room full of light," he whispered. "I only looked at your shadow." "And," she replied, "and now the shadow has learned to walk in the light." They stayed there a long time, two souls who had once been alone, now surrounded by stars and peace. Across the galaxy, a message spread quietly. Not forced, not pushed, not ordered. Just shared. Truth begins when someone dares to see what others ignore. Sometimes the light we need most comes from the shadow we fear. And so the story of Mira and Thalen became not just a memory, it became a lesson. A quiet reminder that even in the brightest room, there is always a shadow, and sometimes that's where the truth lives.